What's going on, my dudes? Chens11 here, and welcome back to another episode in the A to Z series, where we go through each and every champion in League of Legends and give you a basic and beginner's guide on them. So in today's episode, we're going to be showing you how to play Kayle top for beginners. So we are going to be going through Kayle's runes, Kayle's abilities for Season 11, and Kayle's build, Kayle's runes for Season 11, and most importantly, Kayle's abilities. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. As I said, we're going through every single champion in the game, and hit the like button if you enjoy the video. It helps me out a lot. So Kayle, quick little summary of what she is. She is an absolutely disgusting late game hyper carry. And when I say, I say that a lot about some champions. Some of them are like a 10 out of 10. Kayle is an 11. Absolutely unstoppable late game. You need to focus her in team fights. If you don't, you'll lose the game. You need to CC her. If she's allowed to sit there and do damage, she can literally 1v5 team fights. It's absolutely insane. One of the main reasons why I fell in love with her when I first started playing League of Legends, even before her rework, she was like that. I think more so now. But she is quite fun to play if you get to that point. Early game, not so much. So you need to weather the storm early, get through the late game, and then you'll have a lot of fun with Kayle. So as I do recently with these videos, what I've been doing is just quickly going through the abilities. So if you're very new to the champion, you know exactly what I'm doing in the lane. And then we'll go through each of the abilities in a lot more detail. Basically, Q is a point and click like a aimed projectile sword that goes out and does damage. W is a heal. It also gives you can self-cast. You can cast on allies. Gives movement speed as well. E is an auto attack reset that makes your next attack do more damage and increases its range. And R is like an invulnerability bubble that also creates swords around you that drop and do damage. You can also cast the ultimate on your other teammates as well. So that's a little intro just so if you're watching, you can see what abilities I'm using. So we're into an Aurelia now. And this game, you can see what I've done early is just try and trade back whenever I can. I'm using my E to poke her as much as I can. And not go too aggressive. Get as many minions as I can. But you've got to remember that Kayle's weak early. So I try to play very safe. You can see there's the Q, there's the E. She jumps on top of us. Fortunately, we trade back with some nice auto attacks. We pull her back, so my minions are damaging her. So we're actually trading pretty even, despite being under damaged, doing less damage because of minions. Then we poke with our E. We'll try and poke now because she's really low. Again, playing it slow. Because remember, we got a bit of range on her with our E. And we get the first blood. So getting first blood on Kayle is absolutely disgusting. Because if you win the early game or the mid game on Kayle, it's absolutely lights out. So I hope you enjoy the video. As I say, with these are pre-recorded games that I played earlier in the week. And I just record the audio and the guide over the top. So something to look at. The gameplay is not the most important thing for these videos. It's just something there to look at while we go through the champion. So we're going to go through runes first. So Kayle's runes, very standard Kayle runes, are press the attack. Obviously very important to get attack speed. She has a lot of on-hit in her kit. Triumph, Legend Alacrity, Last Stand. Then you're going to go Resolve or Secondary with Conditioning and Overgrowth. And then on the three little runes you can choose at the bottom, you want to go Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, or and then you want to go Magic Resist or Armor, depending on the matchup. And take into consideration the jungle as well, because they're going to be trying to gank you if you play Kayle a lot. In this game, AD is probably the best way to go, because we're into an Aurelia, right? So we get a nice early gank as well from the Shaco. So we bait the all-in from the Aurelia. You can see we're under level, but thankfully the Shaco ganks, and the Nunu's gone mid. We can see what we can do here. It's good if I get the kill, but again, if the Shaco gets the kill, he's strong early, so that'll be good for him. He can start pushing his lead around the map. Killing the Aurelia just allows me to get free farm for a while and not have to deal with her. So that's basically the main point. She did use her TP, so that is down for a while. So fantastic start to the game. You will still see, even though we're ahead, we'll lose the lane because it's just impossible to maintain pressure against a high damage melee AD threat like the Aurelia, because we're very vulnerable and we need to stay especially pre-6. We're melee, so we're very weak. Okay, that's why the early game sucks on Kayle. All right, so we're going to go through the abilities, like your starting ability. You're going to start E. You're going to get Q level 2. You're going to get W level 3. You want to max your E. Very, very important to max your E. That'll make more sense when we go through the passive. You want to max your Q second, and then your W last. And obviously taking a point into ultimate whenever you can. All right, and just last but not least, we're going to quickly go through the build. So let's see what we're going here. So the Aurelia found us in the bush trying to back, so a little bit greedy from myself. Probably should have just walked back to the tower and backed, so I didn't cop that and lose this whole wave. But you can see it's a little bit tough. So we want to go, so as you can see, we want to start, you want to rush your Berserker Greaves. That'll just help with movement speed to try and get away from people. And it makes you, it plays you safe. It'll make you be able to get away and be safe. You're basically a chicken shit in the early game. You're scared. So you want to make sure that you can survive and not feed the enemy top laner, because that's how you beat a Kayle. You have to crush her early and take over the game before she can, because it's like a time bomb. If you let her go, she'll just take over the game and demolish you. The actual starting items. Now, you can go Doran's Shield or Doran's Ring. Doran's Blade or Doran's Ring. If you're going to sit back and poke more with the E in that, like I was doing in the early game, go Doran's Ring. If you want to go more get up and try and auto-attack more and get the lifesteal going, go the Doran's Blade. I've tried both. Personal preference. In the guide, I've said the Blade's better because of the lifesteal. In this particular game, I went for the Ring. And I did ping missing to my mid laner, but because I pinged it on my own lane, she probably didn't hear it. So if you didn't know this in League of Legends, pings get louder. See how she didn't notice I pinged? That's why she pinged me. Pings get louder when they're pinged like closer to you. So if you think the top laner is roaming mid, just ping the actual mid laner like with your cursor. That way they see it and hear it. It'll be loud. She literally might not even heard that ping when I pinged missing when the Aurelia was roaming. Obviously I couldn't follow because she would have just killed me in the river if she saw me. And that's basically it with the build. Oh yeah, and obviously the build, right? So boots, you want to rush your Berserker Greaves. You want to go Nash's Tooth, Rift Maker, Rabadon's Death Cap, and then I'll have a look at this play here before we go through. So we flash the Aurelia. We're just trying to kite as much as we can. The flash was kind of not necessary. But we end up killing the Aurelia, and then the jungle shows up. So we turn on the Nunu, and we almost kill the Nunu as well. So you can see the damage that Kayle has, but you can see how fragile she is if you get on top, right? So you can just get a little bit of a glimpse of what the late game is going to be like when I have all my items and I'm level 16. It's absolutely nuts. So you want to go Death Cap in games where you feel like you're being allowed to deal damage and stand there and hit freely. And you want to go Zhonya's if there's like a AD Assassin. And whichever one you don't get, you get the other one after, if that makes sense. So if you get Rabadon's first, get the Hourglass after, and vice versa. And then after that, you can go Void Staff if they have a lot of magic resist, or you can go Lich Bane to increase damage if they don't have any magic resist. So, if they don't have any AD threats, and you end up going a Lich Bane as well at the end, you can do an absolutely disgusting amount of damage. Alright. So that's the build. That's the abilities. We're going to go through... that's the level up order and the runes. Okay, so now we're going to go through the actual abilities. So Kayle is not a particularly hard champion to play versus other high skill expression top laners, like the Aurelia, for example, in this game. She is auto-attack focused. So if you play ADC or you have delved with ADC, she'll feel a little bit more familiar because she's a ranged hyper carry, so you understand that. But she can just do a little bit more. And she's ranged, she's melee in the early game, which is a little bit unique. That's why she's a little bit of a unique champion. You can see there I just healed the Shaco to guarantee the assist for myself, so we get a little bit more gold. So we're going to go through the passive. The passive is called Divine Ascent. So basically, Kayle ascends through 4 different forms. The first form is when she's level 1, then level 6, then level 11, then level 16. So each time you get a point in your ultimate, she ascends to a higher form. And that's when each time she levels up to that higher form, she becomes a little bit more ridiculous. And once you hit level 16, it's game over. It's actually disgusting. So level 1, so this is your first form, your basic form. Basic attacks give you bonus movement speed as you stack them up to 5, and then you become exalted. And once you're exalted, you get bonus movement speed. The attack speed stacks all the way up to 30 as well, and this also scales with AP. So late game, when you scale up your stacks on your exalted, and you have a lot of AP, you're attacking even faster. All right, and then when you hit level 4, when you hit 5 stacks, that's when you get the burst of movement speed, which allows you to kite easily and chase down targets. Level 6, which is called Arisen, Kayle becomes ranged. So you can see now, well, because we're level 8, we're ranged now. We're throwing ranged auto attacks. A little bit greedy for myself to roam as a Kayle only level 8, and you can see what happens. I have to burn my ultimate and it doesn't even matter. We get demolished. So you can see Kayle is not the strongest in the early to mid, but she does pick up. So level 6, you become ranged. So your auto attacks are now ranged. So it makes it a lot more easier to manage the laning phase. When you're ranged, you can poke people out. You can sit under tower and grab minions. Level 11, this is called a flame. So now when Kayle is exalted, she also launches a cone of damage. So her auto attacks are, after you stack it up to 5, her auto attacks do like this half ring, and they do AoE damage, and they do increased magic damage. The Shaker is ganking here, so we'll have a look at this. We get the Aurelia's Flash, which is fantastic. I don't think we can chase, and we get a nice auto attack off there. So those waves scale in damage, and the damage scales with AD, AP, and it also scales with the level of your E, and which is one of the main reasons why you want to level your E first, because once you get to level 16, level 11, your E is already maxed out anyway, so it's doing the full magic, full potential of damage. So it's fantastic. And then once you hit level 16, you're permanently exalted, and you get even more attack speed, attack range. So at level 16, you're literally always doing increased auto attack damage. You'll always have max attack speed, and you have even more range, right? So it's absolutely insane once you hit level 16. It's kind of like Cassidy, like when he hits level 16, it's game over. And then on these level power spikes, you're also getting another point in your ultimate, which makes you slightly stronger as well. So the power spikes on Kayle are very clear cut, and you know what you're trying to do. Get to those power spikes quickly and effectively, and not feed the top laner too much. The reason why you play Kayle top over mid is because you're a little bit like it's a safer lane to manage if you know how to manage waves. Whereas mid, if you play Kayle mid, where you get a lot of XP, you'll lose pressure on the map because you can't follow around and watch with your jungler. Whereas top's a little bit more safe, if that makes sense. It's a little bit of a advanced concept if you're very new to the game, but just top is better for Kayle. All right, so that's the passive. It's not too hard. You can see here what happens if we just go pretty crap. Obviously, this game is not the best. We absolutely get murdered there by the Aurelia. The reason why I picked this game is a good example of what happens when you just go kind of even or lose the lane, and you get to like your late game power spikes and just watch what happens. It's ridiculous. So we're going to go through the Q first, as the first active ability. It's called Radiant Blast. So it has an active where Kayle conjures a portal in front of her, and it's like a target direction, and it launches a sword. When the sword connects, it does magic damage, and it slows the target for 2 seconds. And it also shreds their armor magic resist. So you want to get this out early in the trade, so your auto attacks are doing increased damage. Okay, so your on-hit damage is increased, and also your auto attack, physical auto attack, is doing more damage as well because they have shredded armor. The slow increases as you level it up. So does the magic damage on the ability. So quite a simple ability. I would have thrown an example up in the top left. You can see we're getting handled pretty hard. Like we're even with kills, but we're down a lot of CS on the Aurelia. So we're kind of behind, but remember, we scale way harder than the Aurelia, even though she scales quite hard herself. So that's a Q, very, very simple ability, nothing too fancy. Next, we're going to go with the W. The W is called Celestial Blessing. Kayle and the target or an ally is healed. So if you target an ally, yourself will be healed as well. So keep that in mind. So Kayle and the targeted ally are healed, and they gain bonus movement speed. Now, if you self-cast this, what happens is the game will automatically heal the nearest closest ally in range, and it prioritizes low health targets. You can see we're getting absolutely clapped by the enemy team. Nice ultimate to try and delay, but ultimately we're going to get absolutely demolished. So we're now at 2-3-2, and I'm thinking, oh god, this is definitely not the YouTube video game, but it is, trust me, because we're going to scale hard. But yeah, that's basically all the W does. Again, example in the top left. Use this sparingly. The cooldown is quite long. 15 seconds, I believe. You take this as your third point. It gets better late, and late game you use it more for the movement speed than the actual heal, because it allows you to kite harder. So keep that in mind as well. The movement speed bonus is actually really, really strong, and it also scales with AP. So late game, it's like a 50% increased movement speed when you add in the AP. Next is the E. Okay, so the E is a little bit more complicated. Effectively, all it is an auto attack reset, but it has a passive attached to it, and it also has an active. That was the cue I just used on that cannon as well, by the way. So the passive is Kayle does bonus magic damage on hit. Okay, and then that thing that I mentioned earlier about the fire waves is also mentioned in this passive as well. So you get bonus damage on those rings, those on hit damage rings that come off after you hit auto attack a few times, like you stack up your auto attack. So that's that. Now the active portion of this is quite cool. So basically, Kayle empowers her next basic attack, and it has an uncancelable wind up. Remember, it's an auto attack reset, so you can auto E to get a lot of burst of damage off really quickly. It does bonus magic damage, and here's those waves that I was talking about, those fire waves. You see those half circles once you hit level 11. And you're exalted. So it does an on-hit damage when you cast the E's auto attack after you've activated it. It also increases your range. So early game, you use it to poke because you're not ranged at that point. So you can use that to make your next auto attack ranged. You can see how much she demolishes towers once you hit like level 11 as well now. You can see that wave that's going on. That's all AoE. You can see we're just decimating waves now. So once you hit level 11, that's when you start to go nuts. Level 16 is next level nuts. Disgusting. So that's basically all the E does. It empowers your next auto attack. It makes it ranged. It does bonus magic damage. Now, what's also important is after you become a flame. Now, a flame is level 11, which is now. Once you hit level 11, and you have that bonus, the wave thing happening. I know it's a little bit complex. When you use your E, your next auto attack does like an AoE damage explosion on the target, and it does on-hit damage as applied. Okay, and it also scales with the critical strike as well. Not that you build that with this build, but that's just something to mention. So once you hit level 11, your E does like an AoE explosion as well. Okay, so causing the next basic attack to explode in the center, dealing its damage to enemies within, and also does the on-hit damage. Okay, so again, see the theme that's happening here? You're getting more powerful with the levels. So as you hit level 11, your E becomes even more powerful because it has an added effect. But that's basically all the E does. Auto attack reset. Once you hit level 11, it does the explosion. Other than that, it does the AoE. The burst of movements increase that magic damage on the use. So you can see here, like in a team fight, you just try and target whatever you can get onto. In this particular case, we were just autoing whatever's closest. If there's two targets, this is just basic target selection. If there's two targets that are near each other that you can auto attack both of them, try to auto attack whatever's the highest threat, right? So we can just demolish the Kayle with our ultimate. So for example, in this situation, you want to attack the Misfortune because the Morgana's the support, right? You wouldn't, there's an argument to be made for either. But in that case, you would auto attack the Misfortune to get rid of her damage first, then the Morgana. Unfortunately, we died to Ignite on the Morgana, but you can just see a glimpse there of just how much damage Kayle does once you hit level 11. And we haven't even fully scaled yet, so it gets even better. So next, we're going to go through the ultimate. So the ultimate is called Divine Judgment. You saw it just there. Basically, Kayle grants herself or a targeted ally invulnerability for a few seconds, and then the swords come down. You can still move while it's casted, and then they come down and do a lot of damage. Now, once you hit level 16, the damage is actually really, really strong, and it scales a lot with AD and AP, so it actually does a lot of damage. At level 16, it does 500 base damage, plus it scales with 80% of your AP, and we're building a quite AP-heavy build, so that actually nukes a lot of team fights. If you're in the middle of them and you just ult, it'll do a shitload of damage. Now, most importantly, if you have a target on your team that is someone that likes to go in, for example, Master Yi or the Aurelia, for it, like is a good. On our team currently, we don't really have a great example. Probably the Shaco or the Nico if she ults to go in herself. You cast it on them. Number one, to keep them alive because they're invulnerable. Number two, the AoE explosion is amazing. Casting it on yourself as Kayle is situational. You don't always want to do it because once you cast it on yourself, you can't auto-attack. When you cast it on allies, they can still auto-attack. So it's more effective to use it on allies. But remember, you are the hyper carry, so you want to keep yourself alive when you have to. So that's a little bit of nuance where it takes a while to get to understand what you should do in all the situations. In a situation where I was 1v1 in the Akali, obviously use it, get the kill, survive. In a big team fight and there's someone going in, like there's an obvious choice to use it on them instead of yourself. Because you should be playing backline safe, you know, you shouldn't be in the middle of their damage, right? Because then you're playing it wrong. So you can see here, we are literally in the middle of their damage. We used the ultimate on the Zaya to keep her alive. See, in that situation, I probably could have used it on myself, right? But it didn't really matter because we were in the team fight. But you can see I'm absolutely demolishing these fights. Like, the thing is with Kayle, you will die straight away because you're super fragile or squishy, as you would say in League. However, if you manage to survive, then the damage is just unmatched. It's absolutely insane. And a lot of it is AoE when you become level 16 or when you hit level 11 and you exalted yourself. When you get those AoE auto attacks and they're all doing on here, it's absolutely disgusting. So that is it, guys. That is all the abilities. Now, what do you want to do in the actual game, like macro-wise? Macro meaning, like, what do you want to? What's your strategy? The strategy for Kayle is to split push as much as you can, but join team fights when they're important. You can split all game, but what you'll find is if they all just come and try and kill you, and you're not really, really strong, you'll die, and then your team will lose the team fights. Rather, if you have, like in a game like this where we have a Yuumi who can just sit on top of me and make me even stronger, there's literally no point splitting. Because if I sit with my team, we'll win every single fight. Right? You only split if you need to. Like if you want to split the damage so you can siege the base, right? So in this case, it's just lights out with a sorry, what did I say? Nico? A Yuumi, rather. It's just absolute game over. They can't do anything. I'm just walking around being an idiot and just auto-attacking. With her speed ups, heals, it's lights out. You can see we decimate waves. So, team fights, hang around the back line, step up to auto-attack. You want to wait for CC, important CC to go down. As with all hyper carries, you can't just run in there because you'll just die via CC. You can see here, we can do the damage, but if we get CC'd like that, we're going to get demolished. See, here I used my ultimate to give myself time to kite, and then we kite back. And you can see we just... Look at this, guys. I don't have to say anything. Just watch. It's just beautiful. Yuumi's making it look even stronger because of the heals and the increased damage. But that's basically what Kayle does. Absolutely demolishes team fights. Look at the burst there we did there. Fortunately, we died because I was a bit greedy. We can get the Zhonya's now to survive the burst. We are stacking up our Dark Seal. Dark Seal. I always buy those as well. I think they're great because if you start scaling on Kayle and you get a fully stacked Magi, it's literally no chance for the enemy team. All the AP damage you're doing. So that's it, guys. That's all of Kayle's abilities. Her runes are pretty straightforward. They're all attack speed based for obvious reasons. She has a lot of on hit. And her abilities themselves, like Kayle's not very difficult champion to understand. I know I spoke a lot about the passive and the E, but really it's not that difficult. The difficulty in playing Kayle is positioning, as with all ranged hyper carries. If you play ADC, you'll know this. The most important thing is not dying, because if you die, you can't do damage, right? So you need to be aware of where you are and where your teammates are. You need to be aware of the enemy's high threat CC abilities. So in this game, the Aurelia's E, the two blades, I did the guide for a little while back now. I can't quite remember. The two blades, you need to be careful of like that ability, the Morgana bind, because if you get hit with that, you'll just die. So you can see the Nunu here, we're just mowing him down. As soon as I see the misfortune, I change targets, because the misfortune's the damage dealer in this case. So we switch targets, then we go back onto the tank, or the relative tank, and you can just see we just demolish those chickens. If we just made fried chicken with our exalted passive, it's game over. At this point, the enemy team should surrender. There's no way they can deal with this with a Kayle this like late into the game, and I'm actually quite fed as well because I've got 11 kills. So we need to dodge the Morgana's Q. That's the only way we die, really. Akali doesn't have much CC. The Aurelia stun is important. The Nunu's knock-up is important to keep aware of. You can see we haven't been hit by that too many times. And we're just sieging with our team. When I play Kayle, I get to the point where I'm fed like this, and I just lose like all sense of how to play League of Legends. I I play basically Street Fighter. I just go straight in and just go for team fights because I'm having fun, right? It's like ARAM. Because I know I can just demolish the whole team. So that's the kind of strategy I'm employing in this game, but it's not necessarily the best. You want to fight around, obviously, objectives. You can see where the Kayle is actually a quite high threat target, so we can try and burst her when we can. And basically, we're just sieging. Now, what I would suggest is try not to end the game with one inhib down. It's kind of hard to end with one inhib. You can see these team fights are just going nuts. Look at this. I'll just let this damage go through. It's better to go 2 inhibs and then try and end, because if the enemy team's respawning, it's actually quite hard to end. But when you've got a lot of AD and damage threat like we do in this game, then we can actually get through their base pretty quickly. So really we'd want to be splitting another lane. But you can just see, look at this, I'm just ignoring towers, and just look at this, game over. The what's her name? The Yumi stole the kill there. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave any questions in the comment section. I reply to every single comment on my channel. So if you're just saying hi or a story about, finding the champion, I will reply. Any questions I will answer. So thank you guys so much for watching. Next, we're going to do Akshan, so the new champion. He is A, so we've passed A, so we're going to go back and finish him off. New champion, very excited for that game as well. So hope you enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, at the end of the day, it is nighttime. Take care.